Hi, friends, it's Annie. And right off the bat, I have to tell you, I still have a wretched cough and my voice is really shot and I apologize, but I kind of wanted to make a video. So, this is again some random stuff that sold last week, and I'll just get right to it. The first thing is a children's book from 1947 called Some Queer Animals and Why. And for some reason, the title of this book totally cracked me up. And I thought some queer person might also find it amusing. I don't know if that's why it was purchased or if they just liked the book, because the book is also cool in and of itself and its original intention. It has unusual animals with illustrations. So that sold for full price this week. Next, this is just a modern plastic and metal necklace. I picked it up in an estate sale probably for $1, maybe less. And I actually thought I might wear it, but I, because I have this thing for this sort of alizarin crimson blood red color, but I decided I wouldn't and I sold it and it sold pretty quickly for $14.50. These are cartridges for a now obsolete, I believe, craft machine called the Xyron. And it's a thing, it's kind of just like a roller crank mechanism. And you drop these cartridges in, and they do different things like laminate paper or create sticker paper. And I think it did other things too. But at the time that I bought this is another thing that was mine, about 10 years ago. It was much harder and more expensive to get stickers or laminated things made professionally. And I thought this was super cool that you could do it yourself. I don't even know what project I had in mind at the time, but I came across these and thought I should really just sell those. So there's three cartridges. One is slightly used, the other two are still sealed, and they sold for somewhere around the asking price. Um, Yeah, I also have the actual machine, which I should also sell. I'll remember to take some photos. Next item. These are, as it says, three random design markers. So these these are kind of an old iteration of these Everhard Faber ones, Design and Design 2. These are expensive to buy individually, and these were in working order. Um, I think I tested other ones and the nibs were messed up, so these were the only ones that I sold. And I think somebody in Europe bought these actually. So although it's kind of expensive for them, it's still a good deal. Maybe these colors are, um, not made anymore. I'm not really sure. They're all different kinds, actually, different tips. But somebody bought them. That's cool. This is one of my favorite sales of last week, actually. If you're not familiar with the Outlander series, it's this it was fairly cult, and now it's fairly mainstream. But it's this series of novels that are mm, about 18th century Scotland and 20th century like World War II era Boston, pretty much, and mostly about 18th century Scotland and the Jacobite Rebellion and all that stuff. And it's a really epic saga, and it involves some romance and some time travel and some war. It's really known as being very genre bending. And oddly, my mom tipped me off to these books a long time ago. She was part of the original early adopter cult of these. And she was so into them and like waited for each next one to come out. Um, and so I did actually eventually read them, and I really enjoyed them, even though I was like, I'm not gonna like that. It's too romantic. It's too whatever. But they're really a fun time actually. Um, and there's lots of history, and I'm totally a sucker for that. Um, so anyway, I was, crawling around on the floor at some thrift store. I think it was a Savers actually, looking at records which they'd stored in some unfortunate place, and I saw a couple of these hardcovers, and I was like, "Huh, those will probably sell." And then I poked around and found all of them. Oh, there's 8 in the original series, and there's 2 more coming out, I guess. And then I actually already had this one, which is like a sort of like a gloss to the series. It's like a extra stuff, outtakes or something uh, book. So I put them all together, and they sold for $175, really pretty fast, like within, I don't know, a week or so, which was cool because I didn't really have anywhere to put them. And um, it's, even though it's kind of a lot, that's a really good deal for someone. It's all the hardcovers in great condition. And oh, the thing is, this is now a TV series on cable, and I think it's really popular, whatever that means. Um, so I was pretty sure these would go fast. So yeah, that's a BOLO. If you find any um, Diana Gabaldon books, they probably sell individually pretty well, and definitely in full sets or quasi sets. I know I've sold some of the paperbacks on Mercari when I was like experimenting with Mercari, not to much avail, and they went well. And it was just like 2 or 3 paperbacks at a time, different ones in the series. So that's kind of a BOLO, at least for now, while the cable series is still cooking. Okay, next. This is fun too. This is just a little Mattel Christmas catalog thing. It's an insert from my magazine from '83, and I was especially charmed by this because I'm the right age to have had a lot of these toys or to have played with them at friends' houses. So I had some Barbies. Yes, I had that one and that one. And whatever those are, and Garfield and Disney stuff, and the creepy roller skating baby doll, and Masters of the Universe. Anyway, so it's just a very nostalgic little booklet, and that sold this week. These are some wintry snowflake earrings. I picked up a whole bunch of these last year prior to Christmas at a discount store, and they all sold except for this one pair that I don't know why I still had. So I stuck them up this year, and they sold fairly quickly for $14.50. Again, these are totally, new. I probably paid $2 for them max, and they sold for full price of $14.50. So, it's a good deal. I just bought them because I thought they would sell, and they're pretty and sparkly. Next, this is an ad for a classical harpist from 1938, and this comes from a magazine called Musical America. I bought a large lot of those at one point, and many of them I have sold whole, but this particular magazine put out an annual every year, which is huge. It's an oversized publication as it is, probably like Old Life magazine size, maybe a little bigger. And the annuals were, I'm going to say, like 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. So they're huge and heavy. And so rather than selling those as is, I thought I would try selling ads. And what's great about them is It's kind of a trade journal, but I guess it was a trade journal of sorts, but I imagine classical music fans also read it. So the annuals have booking ads for all the current classical music stars, the different instrumentalists and vocalists and dance troupes and soloists and conductors and everyone who was anyone. Their manager put an ad in so that you could book them to play at your venue or, do your production or whatever in the coming year. So, in a sense, these annuals are just chock full of these booking ads, and each one is for a famous person or somebody who was famous in classical music in the 30s, at any rate. Just like hundreds of them, and most of them, unlike this one here, are full page, and a lot of them are really nice graphically. This is a very sort of straight ahead ad here, but a lot of them have some nice, like, streamline ad art going on. Um, and, they're for people who now are just names of performers on scratchy old records, but then were people who were on tour, or like the rock stars of classical music at the time. So they're kind of cool. I've found some interesting ones, and I've learned some stuff about classical music, just processing these, cutting them out and listing them and everything. So I bought that lot a while ago, maybe a year and a half, and most of the ads and magazines that sold fairly quickly. And I've recently taken a lot down and lowered the price on the remaining ones. And this one sold as part of that process. I do have some more that I haven't even cut up yet. So I was waiting for these to run their course. And I'll probably experiment and, maybe cut up one and list one of these annuals and see if anyone bites on it. Again, it's like a really pretty heavy thing to ship, so we'll see. But to the right person, I think they're interesting, and this isn't necessarily my thing, so the right person, it could be a very fun thing to purchase. Here again is something I owned. I bought this for my plant light, my grow light, for my cactus in my office here, and I decided against using it, so I sold it. End of story. This is a little metal tag. It's like a inch and a half. I don't really know much about it. I just thought it was aesthetically pleasing. It wasn't, some lot I bought at an auction or something. And somebody else did too because they bought it this week. This is a Starbucks mug that I picked up at a thrift store at some point. It's a military one. This took a long time to sell. It wasn't a big profit, and I would not purchase again. There are, of course, Starbucks mugs that sell for more and faster, and you really just have to look at the comps and see what's going on at the time. Yeah, I have a few other Starbucks mugs that have been sitting around for a long time too, so not high on my list anymore, but I probably, was experimenting when I bought this. Next, if you watch my horse-throated coffee video from last week, I was talking about this large cache of travel brochures I have from a mouse hoop-filled box from a basement at an estate sale. No, it's not like that anymore. It's all, I took them out and only took the clean ones, and they're all nice now. But this one for Myrtle Beach Landmarks sold this week. It's from 1973, so not that old. And yeah, these just kind of go slowly but regularly. These are some pocket notebooks from, actually, I don't know why I put 1890s, because they're actually from the 1850s, and it's quite clearly marked on here. So I'm not sure. I must have been a typo, I'm sure. Anyway, these are, I think they were meant to be passbooks for a bank, maybe, maybe not. But somebody used them as just personal account books or notebooks, and so they have writing in them. It's mostly kind of business account stuff, and it's actually just two notebooks and the back cover of a third one with the calendar. Yeah, see, look, it's like 1855 calendar. I don't know why I put 1890s, but nonetheless, they sold. Next. This is a postcard of Rangeley, Maine, which is a semi-BOLO for postcards. I find Maine doesn't really, it's not like a great seller in general, but Rangeley is one of the better towns. It's like a vacation town to some degree. There's lakes and a mountain, and people have cabins or summer houses there. So there's some nostalgia going on. Some Rangeley postcards do sell for high prices, hence my pricing on this. This one, however, sold for much lower. I actually took $5 on it because, well, to be honest, I just wasn't in the mood to go back and forth with the guy anymore, and I just said, okay, fine. So, but Rangeley often does better than that. Next, this is another little notebook. This one's from 1856, and it's from an identifiable person and place, John Joslin of Leominster, Mass. It's just a little notebook, and he has accounts in it, and business apples delivered, like traditional New Englandy account stuff. And somebody purchased this for list price. So it's a fun little piece. Next, this is some vintage Hallmark wrapping paper, fall leaves. And I actually have a big pack of this. Well, I guess it's like a pack of 12 packs, maybe, or so. And I always pick up vintage wrapping paper at estate sales because it's one of those things that's considered trash by most people, including the sellers. And it never sells for a ton, but it often sells for me. So this is just an unopened package of like 2 sheets of wrapping paper and 2 gift tags, and it sold for $9.50. And this is the second one of this pattern that's sold. I have tons of vintage wrapping paper listed. I don't know. I find it's kind of like it can sell to people who are into doing decorative wrapping, but it's also can be used for crafts, for decoupage, for junk journals, scrapbooks, whatever. Like it has a lot of potential buyers, even though it's a pretty low ticket item. So I tend to pick it up, for almost nothing and list it reasonably. Next, this is a postcard from Ohio of the Sea Swing, which I think is really cool. Here's the whole postcard. It's not in great shape. It sold for $10. And I also sold another one to the same person, which is this one. This one is actually from Killarney in Ireland, and it is also an advertising postcard piece for Prudential Life Insurance from 1906, and it's, an undivided back. So they bought both of those. Next, this is a horse. I really have no idea what the deal is with this horse. It's a little flocked dude, and he sold for $9.50. Came from some lot somewhere with things that were more interesting as far as I was concerned, and sold a long time ago. But a little horse sold this week. Here is a Werner Heisenberg book. Um, I bought this, you can tell by the background, this grid. I like took pictures on my desk. I used to take pictures on my desk, on my drafting table. Anyway, so this is some time ago I bought this. I bought a bunch of 60s, 50s, and 60s science paperbacks, nonfiction, at an estate sale at some point. And I have a few still listed. A lot of them sold already. Um, some of them had really cool covers, like, famous designers did the covers and stuff. And most of them are, pretty um, seminal works in science, like this one. And there's also like Watson and Crick and some other like really important books that were at the time just, books that came out. So this one sold this week for asking price, and off it goes. Oh, and finally, I sold some jelly. I bought some of this. This is like a quasi-local brand to me. I think it's from Vermont, but it might be Massachusetts. Yeah, it's from Massachusetts, actually, and it's made by, real monks, apparently. Um, I bought some of this that I was gonna sell on Amazon at some point, but between when I brought it home and like 2 days later when I went to send it in, the price had tanked. So I put it up on eBay and it sold this week 2 jars of jelly or strawberry preserve. And I do believe that is the end of my story for this week. So yeah, random stuff that sold this week. Kind of maybe some bolos, maybe some like, oh, Annie is so weird, the things she buys, or whatever. To be gleaned from my tales. But I hope you had a good week on eBay or wherever you are. And I will perhaps talk to you again next week, and perhaps my voice will be back in working order. All right. Thanks, and have a good one.